Philadelphia news, team of my heart.
The Philadelphia 76ers just got handed a lifeline, but here's the problem. Grabbing it might actually kill them. Look, there's a trade proposal floating around right now that is absolutely bonkers. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say this could either save the Sixers season or bury this franchise for the next 5 years. We're talking about a 3-team blockbuster that would completely reshape the Eastern Conference. And the craziest part is, it actually makes sense for everyone involved. Well, kind of. But before we get into the insanity of this deal, you need to understand just how desperate Philadelphia is right now. Because desperate teams make desperate moves. And desperate moves either turn you into champions or turn you into a cautionary tale that gets talked about for decades. Joel Embiid is already back on the shelf. The dude played a handful of games, looked absolutely terrible on defense, like legitimately one of the worst defensive players in the league, and now he's sitting again with no clear timeline for return. This is the same story we've seen for years, right? Embiid gets hurt, comes back too early, plays bad, gets hurt again, rinse and repeat. But here's what makes this year different. The East is wide open. The Cavaliers are good but beatable. The Celtics lost some pieces. The Knicks are solid but not scary. This is literally the best chance Philly has had in years to make a real run. And their supposed MVP centerpiece can't stay on the court. Meanwhile, Paul George finally made his season debut after hurting himself in the preseason. And guess what? He's been fine. Just fine. Not terrible, not great, just a guy collecting a max contract while looking like a shell of the two-way all-star he was supposed to be. The athleticism isn't there, the defensive intensity isn't there. He's basically a high-paid role player at this point, and the Sixers are stuck paying him for 2 more years after this season. That's the nightmare scenario. 2 max contracts, one guy who can't play and one guy who probably shouldn't be playing this much. And meanwhile, you've got Tyrese Maxey playing out of his mind, VJ Edgecombe looking like a legitimate rookie stud, and Quentin Grimes showing he's a legit starting caliber wing. This team has pieces, real pieces, but those 2 max contracts are like anchors dragging the whole ship down. So what if Philadelphia could get off Paul George's contract and replace him with a legitimate 2-way superstar who could transform their defense overnight? What if they could pair Tyrese Maxey with someone who can actually protect the rim, switch on the wings, and maybe even coexist with Embiid for stretches when he's actually healthy? That's where this trade comes in, and man, it is wild. We're talking 3 teams, multiple first-round picks, young players getting moved, and a complete reshuffling of rosters. Here's how it works. The Mavericks are apparently ready to pivot into building around Cooper Flag. Yeah, you heard that right. They won the draft lottery, they're getting Flag, and suddenly they're realizing that their current superstar doesn't fit the timeline anymore. They want young assets, they want flexibility, they want to build around their future franchise player. So they're willing to move their guy. Meanwhile, the Charlotte Hornets are supposedly open for business on LaMelo Ball. And here's where it gets interesting. The Hornets need to take on salary to make the money work. And guess who needs a new home? Paul George. So in this 3-team masterpiece, the Mavericks would send their star to Philadelphia, the Sixers would send Paul George to Charlotte, and the Hornets would send LaMelo Ball to Dallas, along with some salary filler. But wait, there's more, because Charlotte isn't just taking on Paul George's contract out of the goodness of their hearts. Philadelphia would have to sweeten the deal with real assets. We're talking Jared McCain, the rookie who's been showing real flashes this season, plus the Los Angeles Clippers 2028 first-round pick, which could be absolutely premium depending on how the Clippers age over the next few years. That's a massive haul for Charlotte, a young guard with upside and a potentially high lottery pick. In exchange, they commit to paying George's salary for 3 more seasons and hope he can be a veteran leader while they continue developing their young core. Now let's talk about why this is either genius or complete insanity. The player the Sixers would be getting is one of the best defensive players in the entire league when healthy. When healthy. Those are the key words. This dude has an injury history that makes Joel Embiid look like Cal Ripken Jr. We're not talking about one major injury like an ACL or an Achilles where you know the recovery timeline. We're talking about constant nagging injuries. A back issue here, a foot problem there, load management, mysterious absences, the whole 9 yards. But here's the thing. When this guy's on the court, he's a game changer. He can guard the rim, switch on to guards, protect the paint, and he's got enough offensive skill to be a legitimate second or third option. Pair him with Tyrese Maxey, and suddenly you've got a dynamic duo that can actually work. Maxey handles the playmaking and shot creation, and this new guy cleans up everything on defense while giving you efficient scoring inside. Plus, and this is crucial, he can play both the 4 and the 5, which means when Embiid inevitably goes down again, Philadelphia has a legitimate starting center. And when Embiid is healthy, they can run massive lineups with both of them on the floor together. Imagine trying to score on a front court with both of these guys protecting the rim. That's terrifying for opposing offenses. But let's pump the brakes for a second, because we need to talk about the risk here. Is Philadelphia really about to trade away a promising rookie in Jared McCain and a premium first-round pick just to swap one injury-prone max player for another injury-prone max player? Like, what are we doing here? This feels like the definition of insanity. The Sixers have been burned by injury-riddled stars before. They've watched their championship window close year after year because guys couldn't stay healthy. And now they're going to double down on that strategy? This could blow up in their faces so badly. Imagine giving up McCain, who could develop into a starting caliber guard, and that Clippers pick, which could be a top 5 selection, just to watch their new acquisition miss 60 games next season. That's basketball hell. That's the kind of move that gets general managers fired and sets franchises back half a decade. But here's the counter-argument, and it's actually pretty compelling. Paul George's contract is an albatross. It's a boat anchor. It's a financial prison. Getting off that contract alone has massive value because it gives Philadelphia flexibility down the road. And yeah, the new guy might get injured, but at least when he plays, he's actually worth a max contract. George isn't. George is a role player making superstar money. The new guy is a legitimate superstar when healthy, even if healthy is a big question mark. Plus, with Maxey, Grimes, and Edgecomb in the backcourt, there's less playing time for McCain anyway, so including him in the deal isn't as painful as it might seem. And that Clippers pick? Sure, it could be great, but it's also 4 years away. The Sixers are trying to win now, not in 2028. This team is ready to compete right now, this season, and adding an elite defensive anchor gives them a real chance to make noise in a wide-open Eastern Conference. Think about the matchups, too. Right now, the Sixers have no answer for Giannis Antetokounmpo. None. Embiid can't guard him when healthy, and forget about it when Embiid's sitting. But this new guy? He's one of the few players in the league who can actually slow Giannis down. Same thing with Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Jalen Duren, all the elite bigs in the East. Suddenly, Philadelphia has a defensive identity. They have someone who can anchor the paint and make life miserable for opposing teams. That's huge! That's the kind of upgrade that can turn a fringe contender into a legitimate threat. But it all comes down to health. It always comes down to health. And that's why this trade is either going to look like a stroke of genius 2 years from now, or an absolute disaster that everyone saw coming. So yes, the Philadelphia 76ers might be about to make the craziest trade of the season, swapping out Paul George, Jared McCain, and a future first-round pick for Anthony Davis. And before you freak out about the injury risk, just remember that doing nothing is also a risk. Watching this season slip away while Embiid sits and George underperforms is a risk. Sometimes you have to take a swing. Sometimes you have to be bold. And if the stars align, if Davis stays healthy, if Maxey continues his ascent, if Embiid can actually contribute something when he returns, then maybe, just maybe, this insane gamble actually works and Philadelphia finds themselves competing for an Eastern Conference title. But if it doesn't work, if Davis gets hurt, if they gave up too much, if this whole thing implodes, then the Sixers just mortgage their future for nothing, and we'll be making videos about this disaster for years to come. Drop a comment and let me know if you'd make this trade if you were running the Sixers. Smash that like button if you think this is either brilliant or completely insane. And subscribe because we're going to be following this story all season long. And trust me, it's going to get even crazier from here.